to see him.
Welcome, everyone. I would like to now call to order the Special Planning Committee meeting for September 23rd, 2024. And with that, I'd like to acknowledge that we are in the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, including our near neighbors, the Chinook First Nation and also the Sauk First Nation. I also want to note that next Monday is National Truth and Reconciliation Day, and I hope that everyone will find time to both learn and reflect. And as we know, this day honors the children who never returned home and the survivors of residential schools, as well as their families and communities. So recognizing this painful and tragic history is an important part of the overall work toward reconciliation. So with that, Council or Committee, are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Mary Little, and seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's carried. Okay, so looking toward the meeting, we have 4 items that we'll run through tonight. There are 3 development variance permits, or DVPs, all looking at variances from the established setbacks, either from the side, front, or rear setbacks, as indicated in the land use bylaw. In terms of process, I'm going to introduce the application, and then I will ask our planner to further comment, and then I will ask the applicants to come up and say anything if they wish to address their application. And following that, committee will have some discussion. I should note, I think we all know this, it's been our practice to not make decisive judgments on the DVPs that are before us at this stage, but rather to work with the applicant to do a site visit. And I might throw that out as something we consider at this time as well. So with that, our next item is public participation.
Good afternoon. My name is Brent Donaldson, Challenge Court. I'm speaking to the staff report B, the property at 3940 Highmount. I'm not speaking in favor or against, just a point of information. I was a long-standing member of the Parks and Trails Committee and Trails Coordinator, and I'm very familiar with this area. Actually, the Highmount area was all forested when we purchased our property. About 25 years ago, there was a fellow, late Mr. Peacock, who built a house on Ferncliff Drive. And there was a similar park situation that the folks on Highmount Drive have in their backyard, and that's a linear park area, which that was in front of the Peacocks when they bought the property and when they built their house. And as time went by, neighbors in the area were looking for access to the Galloping Goose Trail, and that back area of Mr. Peacock's property was a park trail, and there was interest in accessing that. And at the time, Mr. Peacock definitely had some concerns because of the proximity to his house and where this linear trail was going to be. So certainly for these folks, I wish them well, but I just caution maybe staff make a note that these folks are aware that this is a park and parks are public access, and down the road this could be an access point for neighbors to work around their subdivision in the way of walking their dogs or the like. So it's getting very close to that back area, and I just hope that they understand that it could end up being a trail at some particular time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else for public participation? So again, if there's anything on this agenda from the public's perspective that you want to address, now is the time to do so.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Frisch, and I live down on Perry Cross Road. Just a few comments about the last item on the agenda, the building bylaw update. I didn't have a chance to start looking through it until shortly before the meeting. Wish I'd had given myself more time. But there are a couple things in here which I feel could potentially inhibit the people to file for a building permit. One thing in particular, which is different than other municipalities, and I know this was kind of drawn from a standard template, is the requirement for a registered professional to prepare a site plan. So that's a defined term, which is basically means either an architect or a surveyor. And the present manner by which a majority of building permits, especially small additions or moving structures to a property, are done are through a designer. So somebody who might work for an architecture firm but doesn't have a stamp, they cost half the price and they're much quicker turnaround time than having an architect prepare the site plan. So I just wanted to kind of draw that attention out, just to ask if there's been kind of a filter on this for optional things which don't need to be done, but which may have been recommended. And that's about it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frisch. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to move on to the first development variance permit on our agenda. And so this is, the applicant are the property owners of 4290 Metchosin Road. I'll just really quickly go through this, and then Ms. Johnson, our planner, will fill in some of the blanks. So as you've seen in the report, the variance involves an existing structure with the variance being sought for the front and side setbacks. This is in relation to an existing building that the applicants want to convert from a residence to an accessory building. They want to do this in light of a new principal residence which has been built on the site, and they're now seeking an occupancy permit for that. However, before they can get that occupancy permit, they need to make a decision about the existing building. And they've got three choices, as I understand it: demolish, convert to a standalone building or a detached suite, or decommission the residence. So what the property owners wish to do is take that third option, and as in making this structure an accessory building. And to do that, they need to take, they're seeking to obtain a variance for the following. So moving the side yard setback from 3 meters, or about 10 feet, that's 3 meters is our standard variance, to 0.27 meters, or just under a foot. The front yard setback, they've asked to move 7.5 meters, or 24 feet, to 5.2 meters. So shrinking both the front and the side setbacks. So at this point, I wonder if I can ask Ms. Johnson to come up. Tara Johnson is our contract planner, and just provide some further background. Thank you.
Good evening. Does this go on automatically?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, committee and members of public. Thanks for the summary. The additional information is the existing residence has been added onto over the years. There is an original portion of the structure that, according to the owner, has been there for over 80 years. And they just recognize the historical history of it and would like to maintain use of that. So after reviewing the application and regulations, visiting the site, talking to the owner, considering the applicant's rationale, the variance request to this side is quite a significant reduction, and it's not really a minor variance. And so planning, when looking at it, we're looking at the intent of setbacks, and also recognizing that there could be an opportunity to actually comply with the side yard setback, as well as maintain the original portion of the dwelling to be utilized. And that's part of the reason why planning was recommending not supporting the side variance, but the front yard variance was supportable. But yeah, that's about all I have to add. There's recommended options in the report, as well as other options, and I believe the applicant is there tonight. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. And now if I could ask the Ms. White, the applicant, if she wanted to address this any further.
Yeah, I didn't know how to do this variance thing, and when I submitted the original variance, I had no idea that the original house was too close to the road. It's been there forever. I bought it off a 90-year-old man who said he got it as a war gift or something like that, and that's part of the reason I'm building a new house, is this structure is no longer viable to live in. It is perfect for an outbuilding. I desperately need some storage on my property, and that's what I'll use it for. I need a tack room where my tack doesn't go moldy, and to keep that will be really important. There is, you haven't done a site thing, but there is a portion that was added sometime before I bought it. I don't know exactly how, it kind of sticks out on this side. And I didn't know if maybe I should have made this too, but we could take off that portion, and that would solve the side yard. The only thing that I would request is that somehow we be given a permit to live in the new house before we have to do this, because in order to do it, my hot water tank's out there, my laundry room's out there. It will deem the house I now live in unlivable. So I have to have a house to live in. So if I don't have occupancy of the new house, I don't know how in the world I would start taking down part of the old house. We can put a time limit on it. I'm willing to do whatever I need to do, but I would need occupancy of the new house before I start to do this. Because once I take out the hot water tank, how am I going to live there, right? I think that removing the old house that's been there sitting the way it is kind of silly. I mean, it's going to leave a big blank. I don't know what I'd use that piece of property for. It's going to leave a blank there that's going to just become a weed. I don't know. My neighbors, I know, have no complaints about it. I've asked them. The neighbors on the folks on one side are quite far away, and the neighbors that are close to the other side have said they have no issues with the house. So that's what I would ask, that either that we get to keep the old house and maybe if we have to take off that one part of it, and that I be given occupancy permit before I have to do this. Thank you.
Great. Mrs. White,
Yeah.
I just want to ask if the committee has any questions for you. I have one really minor question. Sorry, you mentioned you were bringing something in so it doesn't get moldy.
Oh, my horse tack.
I got it.
My
Okay,
horse
thank
tack,
you.
it's all out in a shed in every, and I want dry storage
Okay,
is the only point.
okay.
I mean, I
Tell
think Shelley
about
would
her
understand,
tack.
but I don't have any dry storage on my property. I have a carport, but there is nowhere to put stuff that you want to keep dry, even tools and stuff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for Ms. White, folks? Councilor Craig?
Well, for Ms. White or Ms. Johnson, I just wondered, is there a secondary suite on the property at the moment?
Pardon? No.
No, thank you.
But I'm not interested in I won't be turning it into a suite. It will be an outbuilding and storage.
Yeah, that's great. I just wasn't sure of the configuration of the other building. Thank you.
Great.
And I had a question for the planner, which was just, what exactly is decommissioning? What goes on in that process? And perhaps also you could address the question of an occupancy permit and allowing that, how we could manage that question. Thank you.
Through the chair, I don't know the answer to all the technical requirements, but for decommissioning and converting a residence to an accessory building would require removing specific appliances and AMP service, for stoves and whatnot. From what I understand, certain plumbing facilities potentially can remain, like maybe for a bathroom, and that's why there is a section on the Metchosin building permit checklist form that allows the building inspector to request that the owner do a statutory declaration or a covenant to ensure that the accessory building remains accessory when there's a plumbing facility. But I think the main thing for decommissioning is removing kitchen appliances stove or whatnot. And sorry, what was the other question?
Through the chair, just wondering about the
The occupancy.
occupancy, the question of providing an occupancy permit before the addition is removed, if that's the decision.
Through the chair, once there is a building permit in to convert the existing residence to an accessory building, and so now there's 2 permits in, there the building inspector potentially could find a way to allow occupancy with conditions, but there has to be a permit in to do the conversion.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Councillor Johnson.
Through the chair to Ms. Johnson.
Sorry.
So I realize that it is the current dwelling at the moment, and that it is a very old house. So in looking at what's later on in our agenda tonight with upgrading the building bylaw, etc., one of the questions I have is, are accessory buildings required, regardless of their age, to have engineer's report?
Through the chair, that's a great question. Accessory buildings in the building code bylaw, but also in just the building code in general, it's not as specific to accessory buildings as it is to buildings where there's occupancy, dwellings, or sort of assembly use. So that I'm not sure if I can answer that question for you. But yeah, I think there's room around that.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Now, one of the things, sorry, I probably neglected to do is just go through a bit of process, and Ms. Johnson, correct me if I'm wrong in this. So what we're looking at today is either moving ahead with the planner's recommendation, our own approach potentially, or denying. But the key thing in the next step is a mail out that would go to residents within 60 meters of the application. And then based on that input, the plan is to bring this back by October 7th for council's consideration. And at that point, council, in our function as council, will approve or cast its judgment on the development variance permit. So there is a bit of this is the first step in that process. So, great. Mary Lou.
Yeah, so I'd like to suggest, of course, we do a site visit. We can do that concurrently with the letters being sent out to the neighbors.
Great. Okay, I'm fully in support of that. Councillor Craig?
So I'll move option 1.
Okay, this has been moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second that. Could we add the site visit to option 1?
Okay. Okay.
I think if we have option 1, then it sets a date for the meeting, and then it's a separate issue. We should do a site visit.
Yeah. Now, what we can do is we can do this in 2 separate motions, as I understand. So we can pass the motion that Councillor Gray has put forward, and then we've seconded Mayor Little. Okay, so why don't we talk about the motion right now? I have my own thoughts on this, and looking for any further discussion. Councillor Johnson?
Thank you. Yeah, in option 1, it doesn't say what the planner had mentioned and what Ms. White had also recognized, and that was the removal of the addition.
Yeah.
Whereas I think maybe option 2 might, or that comes at a different meeting.
So as I understand it, correct me, Ms. Johnson, if I'm wrong, option 1 presumes the removal of that extra building there. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
So the variance, yeah.
Appreciate that.
Removal of the addition.
The addition, yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put forward my thoughts. I'm going to vote against this. I'm supportive of not foreclosing our options and the landowner's options. I'd actually like to see the site first before I cast judgment on whether the building is too close or not and whether it can actually exist in harmony with the neighbors. I think any input we get from the neighbors will be important to factor in. I'd rather see us move ahead with the potential of variance granted on both the side lot and the front. And if we decide on seeing the property that it's too extreme, or if we hear from the neighbors that they've got concerns, then maybe we can adjust at the council meeting. But I'd like to keep that option open myself. So, Councillor Gray.
Yeah, I made the motion because I think we're meeting the values in our policies as laid out by the planner. And it seems to me that we make the motion now, we do the site visit, and then we can amend our approach when it goes to council. The idea that I'm understanding though is it's been quite a while for the 3 different variances to come forward to us, and that it would be proper to move it along so that on October 7th we can actually make a decision with all the proper information. I'm not committing tonight to the final decision. That will happen at council after a site visit, after we've had a chance and heard from neighbors and everybody else. So I just want to get something out there, and then we can react to it as we move forward.
Okay, I'm with you, Councillor Gray, and my only concern is that if we follow option 1, we're not giving consideration to the side setback, and we're also not giving the neighbors information on the side setback as well. So I'm with you in wanting to move this along. My understanding is staff are ready to get information out, and they know the tight timelines and recognize the property owner's been, this has been on our plate, if you will, for quite some time. So, but Councillor Up and Mayor Little, any further comments?
Well, I agree with the planner on this one, and I would support option 1.
Okay. Councillor Mayor Little, any further?
No, I support option 1.
Okay. Councillor Donaldson, any further?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Councillor Shukin, as my colleagues have said, site visits always reveal a lot more. So
Okay.
I think that with option 1 and a site visit, if we get any more additional information, we certainly will come back at the next meeting of the council and we can deliberate further.
Sure.
So I think we're all in agreement that a site visit has great value
Okay.
in the decision-making process, including the values of the community and the neighbors who will be getting some information from. So I think tied together, I think we're all in agreement.
Great. Okay. Thank you. And with that, I won't be seconding that. I'll support option 1 as well. So I'll call the question on that. All in favor of option 1? Okay. Thank you. That's carried. Now, can someone make a motion to have staff request a site visit as soon as possible? So Mayor Little, and seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any discussion on that? Okay, I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, great. So we're going to keep moving on here. Okay, so the next, So the next development variance permit we have for consideration is 3940 High Mount Drive, and this is for a DVP to allow a rear yard setback to be moved from the allotted 10 meters to 4.48 meters. So the purpose of this is to allow the applicants to utilize an existing foundation that was intended for an accessory building. The applicants are now seeking this for a principal dwelling, pending the approval of a subdivision of the existing property that will create the subdivision that they've applied for, will create one new lot with the ability to have a new dwelling there. So, and I think you've got the measurements of the lot, all is above board in terms of the subdivision. And of course, the planner is recommending that the variance be subject to the approval of the subdivision. So you'll see some history on this property in the planner's report. There were originally 2 lots in 1994, then the owners consolidated in 1996, and now again they've applied to create one new lot. So again, with that, I might ask Ms. Johnson to come up and provide any further information on the variance.
Thank you. I don't have, much further to add, except that there is a subdivision application in progress. So there's some processes happening that don't affect the variance application. I've explained it in the report in regards to riparian areas assessment, driveway standards review. All those items are happening at this time, but they don't affect the variance. And just, planning has reviewed the application and the site and finds that the request is reasonable and would have the least adverse impacts on the site. It's already cleared. It's making use of an existing foundation. That's what it takes.
And I do know, Ms. Johnson, you say in your report that, using the existing foundation, the building area will reduce impact in terms of tree cutting especially. So, yeah, great.
And as when they get through the building permit process, there'll be other sort of checks that to make sure that regulations are being complied with, like tree removal and stormwater management.
Great. Okay, we have some
Rainwater
questions for
management.
you.
Yeah, just to ask, what would be the future plan for the driveway? Maybe that's a subdivision question, but it looks like it's a difficult terrain there. Is that sort of through the subdivision process, I suppose?
Through the chair, yes. So there is one area that they have to improve to meet fire standards. And it's something that can be done, and it will be done prior to final subdivision approval. The driveway has been existing since 1996 or earlier, and they will have to get a reciprocal access easement to for both.
Okay.
But yeah, most of it is on the subdivision application.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Jones.
Through the chair, Ms. Johnson, do you know if the current foundation has ever been permitted? Permitted, like with a permit?
Oh, yes, it was legally built under a building permit. They just didn't finish it.
Is there any, are there any walls or any other construction on that, or is it just the foundation?
Through the chair, it's just the foundation from what I understand.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, well, thank you. And the applicants are in the audience, and if you wanted to speak or address your application. So this is Mark and June Pavlovich.
Yes, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the members of the public speaking about the park behind us. We moved to Metchosin because we love the area and the park and not being so close to our neighbors, so we're really enjoying this location. As stated, we are reinstating a property line so that my mother-in-law can build a rancher on her portion of the property and just keep our estates separate. The existing foundation that is there was built as a secondary suite, so it's quite a large built area, and because we're only wanting to create a rancher, it would be great if we could just add on to that so that my mother-in-law can drive into her garage and then have access right into her house. If the variance were to be denied, then of course we would need to keep that as a secondary garage and then build her house beside it, so she'd be walking outside, which is a little bit problematic, and she's already 77, so we're just looking to the future. If she ever has wheelchair access or a walker, it'd be nice if she could just pull in and have access to her house.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything?
Great.
Yeah.
There is walls on the structure right now on the roof, so.
Yeah, when we purchased the property, we spoke with Al, the engineer who has retired since, and the planner who has moved on. So the foundation was permitted, and as it was being built, unfortunately, the owner had passed away. So I don't know at what point obviously the permit was like void after that. So yeah, we're working with the planner, current planner, to get the subdivision completed, and then hopefully work on the building permit once we know what design we need to work on.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the Pawlicz's?
So on the map that we have, through the chair, sorry, it looks like the variance is just one corner of that foundation, not the whole back of it.
That's correct, yeah. So that building, no matter what happens here, would stay as a secondary building if it needed to. So our plan would be to build her house into her property. So that would be the closest section, would be that corner that already exists. The rest of her ranch would be pulled back quite substantially. It is quite a rocky terrain, so of course we need to work around the septic field location. So that requires us to build either a secondary house or attach it in a way where it makes more of an L shape and keeps it away from that parkland. Yeah.
Great. Any further questions? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
So, committee, any comments? Councillor Brown?
I'll just, given that we will all want a site visit, I'm going to move option 1.
Great, thank you. And secondary, Councillor Donaldson. I'll just note that option 1 includes that the variance permit is subject to the owner obtaining the subdivision approval. So, but okay, and with that, moving this option gets the mail-out process underway and takes us to the next step. So, okay, all in favor? Okay. And if I could have somebody also request that staff work with the owner to get us a site visit as soon as possible. So Mayor Little, Councillor Donaldson. Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, great. Okay, the third and final PDP. Okay, this is for the property at 3771 Duke Road. The application is for reductions in the rear yard setback from 10 meters to 7.5 meters and the southern side yard setback from 3 meters to 2.4 meters. The driver for this application is the applicant's desire to build a secondary suite addition to the principal residence, and it's noted that their goal is to use the secondary suite for aging in place. And in her report, the planner, Ms. Johnson, references that the housing for senior was identified in the 2021 housing needs assessment as a need locally, and I think throughout the community we've also heard that need in one form or another. And so with that, Ms. Johnson, any further information on this application?
Again, not much further to add. The chair, you do a great job summarizing. But after visiting the site, speaking with the owner, looking at the regulations, there isn't really much space to add a secondary suite, considering their original dwelling is at the rear of the property. And it is commendable and encouraging that they're thinking ahead and planning to design a suite to age in place. And the variances requested are minor, and they are still have a setback, a buffer from neighboring properties, and there's no vegetation to be removed. So that's why I was recommending support. Yeah.
Councillor Brown?
Just what I put in action of the committee would be if staff might circulate the Metchosin Housing Needs Assessment from December 2020. I don't have a copy of it, can't find it, would love to see it.
Oh,
thank you.
Through the chair, yes. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Any further questions? And we will invite the applicants up if they... Okay. Mr. and Mrs. McMillan?
Yes, Good evening, Chair Schicken, Councillors Donaldson, Gray, Mayor Little, and Councillor Epp. And thank you for coming to do a site visit, Ms. Johnson. Thank you for considering our variance application. My husband and I are getting older, and we have been planning an age-in-place accommodation for the last 10 years. So we've waited to put in the variance application until we were sure what we wanted. A few years ago, we did make plans. We paid for an architect to do plans, and we realized those were not really what we needed or wanted. So we came back to the table with each other and our planner, and now are in the process of this variance application, where we need to have a little bit more room for example, an entranceway that has a 36-inch door and able to actually get a walker or wheelchair inside, so we can actually turn around and shut the door. That's one of them. And then we already have a bathroom down there, which is adequate. The entire floor space of the plan would be 890 square feet, which is under the 960 square feet current bylaw. Too many times as a nurse, I've seen so many people living in unhappy circumstances or unhappy dwelling situations because they haven't been able to or couldn't make plans for their future for some reason. We love where we live. It's on Duke Road. We're not too far from the water. Our property is relatively flat. And in 2017, we had our septic field redone, still with the plan of building an age-in-place accommodation, knowing that we would need this extra bathroom. So the plan is already, the septic field has already been updated and upgraded to accommodate such a proposal. We welcome a site visit. We've got the plans, we've got the areas cited with pegs and rope as we speak, so it'll be easy to see how much room we really need. And there's no trees that need to be cut, and there's a small stream running through our property, and that's way at the front, and it's about 300 feet from where we want to put our suite. Can you think of anything else that you'd like to? Yeah, so we just like things like little to no sill, adequate bathroom space, adequate turning radius in kitchens, moving around furniture, able to get outside when we want to, and with as little barriers as possible. So, any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Through the chair to Ms. McMillan, on the map it's highlighted yellow for us. It shows that the secondary dwelling is, the wall of it on the south side is proposed to be closer to the lot line than say where the house is. Is that based on the terrain in the back? As opposed to being the same, sharing the same sort of wall?
Maybe I can have a look at the, we know,
Not following the line of the house.
actually currently it is in line with the current, I'm not sure why that's jutted out there, because it is currently, it's, oh, you mean this is the proposed addition. Yes, it would come out from that would be the entrance where we would need adequate space to turn around and get in and shut the door and so on. And that requires 0.6 of a meter toward the south side. That's Brian Killip's property, and we've already talked to Brian, and he thought it was a good idea. So yeah, he's not opposed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my question was, could the whole suite go more north and be in line with the house? And that way we would still have everything that you need. Or is there something on the north side of that blocks?
Oh, the north side, there's a window. That could that could come out. I'm just concerned that it would be over the square footage that we're allowed if we brought that forward to you're talking about to the west side of the house, like to bring that jutting out a bit.
Just to be in line with the house, the whole thing moving one way.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's always. I haven't seen it, but if we do a site visit, that probably will answer my question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else got any questions, concerns?
Okay. Yeah, Councilor Gray.
Sorry, I was going to move the recommended option from the planner, option 1.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. McCall.
You're welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it. And that has been seconded by Councilor Epp as well. And further discussion? Great. Hearing no hands or seeing no hands, I will call the question. All in favor? Great. Thank you very much. And again, can I have someone make a motion to request staff book a site visit as soon as possible? So from Councilor Donaldson, seconded by Mayor Little. Great. And call the question. All in favor? Thank you so much. That's carried. Okay. Excellent work, committee. 3 development variance permits, and we'll get the site visits underway. Thank you very much, applicants, for being here and walking us through this. So you're very much welcome to stay, and we won't hold it against you if you want to go watch Monday Night Football or something. So. Okay, so not that I really get up. So okay, so we're going to move on to item 4A, and in a moment I'm going to ask Deputy Corporate Officer Hanson, Ms. Hanson, to come forward and provide us with further background on the item before us, which is the renewal of the building bylaw. And as I think you've seen in the planner's report, this was first adopted in 1987. I don't even know if Al Gore had invented the internet by that date. That's a long time ago. I think it's gone through minor amendments, but it is high time that we've moved to update this bylaw. So committee, I'd like to see it as our goal tonight that we provide as much input as we can to staff so we can take our comments away and prepare a new draft for a council meeting where ideally we can go swiftly through the process, because as you see in the report, there are a number of other steps that we have to take with this to make the adoption of the bylaw effective. So that includes amendments to the fees and charges bylaw, also an amendment to the ticket information authorization bylaw, and then further down the road we can look at updating policies relating to building matters. So I'm going to ask Ms. Hanson to come up in just a minute, but one of the key paragraph I wanted to flag in the report is simply this. So building bylaws provide detailed processes for applying for permits, conducting inspections, and enforcing building standards to ensure that construction projects comply with public health and safety requirements of the BC Building Code. The bylaw also sets out the powers of the building official and responsibilities and obligations of the property owners, constructors, and registered professionals. So in short, the building bylaw clarifies the process both for the district and the landowner, and also like the small army of professionals and laborers who are at work in building a house. And so with that, Ms. Hanson, I wonder if you could come up and walk us through the new bylaw, and one of the things, if you could help us clarify that, I think you described to me that this is a regulatory bylaw, and I think there's, with that, maybe get into what that means, and also why we've spent so much time reviewing this with our consultants, our staff, and also legal as well.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
So good evening. So yes, this bylaw has been in draft form for quite some time. Started with the building official consultant that was hired to do the bylaw review. It's gone through a few staff meetings to review the bylaw. It's been through quite a bit of legal review as well. So it's been ready for a while, but we've just had summer break from meetings. So now it's time to move forward with getting this through its process, and there are a few other extra steps that we need to take. So staff are proposing that we do a new fees and charges bylaw to incorporate updated building fees. We also would like to update our administrative fees and any other fees that we charge right now in our current fees bylaw. And then we're going to have to do an amendment to our municipal ticket bylaw as well. So that will just be changing the tickets for the building violations, and that's it. And then after adoption of the bylaw, we should go through our policies. We probably will have to rescind a few of them that won't comply anymore. And the regulatory bylaws are typically drafted by the lawyers. We try not to make changes once the lawyers have finalized everything, because if we make substantial changes, it could change the intent of the bylaw. And so if there are any substantial changes made to this bylaw, it should go back to legal for review. Administrative changes for bylaws, they can be changed more easily without worrying about the bylaw being,
Can I just, one question on this? So an administrative bylaw might be like the council procedure bylaw possibly?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
And is it the highways bylaw would be more regulatory?
Regulatory.
Okay.
Yeah. So in addition to getting the bylaw through its process, staff have been updating the building permit applications as well. We'll have to update our permit software to reflect the new fees. I think the fees were last updated in 2012. So they're quite behind, and we've been reviewing what other municipalities are charging. One of the things that we didn't charge for before that we are proposing is penalties for work without a permit as well. So, yeah. The other thing that's new that I should mention is the addition of the zero carbon step code in here for all Part 3 and Part 9 buildings. So just to make sure that new construction meets the GHG emissions level 4 of the zero carbon step code.
Great. Now, I think as we all know, that is part of the step code, is part of the climate action plan that we passed in 2023, I think it was. So, great.
Yeah. The other thing is there are appendices that are added to the end of the bylaw, and those are owner's acknowledgement of responsibility and owner's undertaking, which places the responsibility on the owners, the constructors, and the registered professionals, and it indemnifies the district from liability. So with each application, those forms will have to be signed. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Gray, go ahead.
It's great to see this. Thanks so much for the work that you've put in, Ms. Hanson, and everybody else who's been involved. I'm particularly pleased to see the zero carbon step code coming into place. I had a couple of questions. One, well, just to mention, we talked earlier about the issue of permitting people having grey water systems, and I think through the process we've learned that, and that was part of our climate plan as well, we've learned that that's actually governed by the BC plumbing code, and so we're not addressing it here. It's already taken care of provincially.
That's correct.
The other one that I wondered about, I might have missed it, but I was wondering about the idea of that we put forward about making sure that new builds had charges for electric vehicles. And I don't know if we dealt with that or not.
That is not in here, but I can check to see if the I can check with our building official.
Yeah, thank you. The other thing I wondered, and this might be one for our building official, but what's a complex building?
Complex buildings, I believe, would fall under
Like multi-story and this sort of thing, or?
They would fall under Part 3, I think.
Well, I was just more wondering what a complex building was. It sort of has different.
It would be more of like a large condo, or
right.
I believe.
Great, thanks. And then there are fees mentioned in here through the chair, and those fees you're happy with in terms of what, or they might get reviewed as well at the time when you bring forward to council?
The fees for...
This one's a permit fee and plan processing fees.
Oh, yes.
They're all-
So those
you're happy
will
with
all
those?
be, those will all be, so those fees that, that you're looking at there are used to calculate. So there's a calculation that the building officials use, and it's up to, you know, between, say, 50,000 and 150,000. There's a calculation that they'll use of what the construction value is. So
That's all.
that's how that's separated out, yeah.
Thank you. Just one final question. We heard from a community member, Ellen Frisch, about the idea of whether or not, in every instance, we want to have, now I'm just looking at the words here, certified professional, or if there might be someone else on staff to help out. Is that something we can look at between now and council, just to sort out whether that's a possibility?
Yes, I can ask the consultant or our building official.
Thank you.
I do know that the building officials are trying to move more towards having the registered professionals submit their form paperwork, and it takes the onus off the district and the building official.
Okay. Yeah, and just picking up on 2 points, I see that complex building is defined, but mainly with reference to the building code. So I'm assuming that that would be a definition that would mean something to the building inspector as well,
Yes.
as opposed to defining it ourselves. So, yeah. And just back to the comments that Ms. Frisch made. Yeah, registered professional. I think the concern was more if it's more of a simple task. Is it something that someone with less of a designation might be able to undertake? So it would be great if we could find out more. It seems like in the spirit of the bylaw, and even probably standards right now, it seems to be like, I'm wondering if people are moving toward defaulting to registered professional. So, yeah. So.
Yeah, I can check though for something like a site plan.
Yeah, okay, great. And with the site plan, I mean, I'm assuming that, again, the site plan doesn't necessarily cover the entire property, but where the building is likely to occur. So that might be something that council kind of having a better understanding of. Yeah, so, okay. Our committee, any further questions? Marilyn?
Just a comment. Thanks very much for going back and forth with this, Ms. Hanson. I really appreciate your thoroughness. And I also am pleased that council's strategic decisions regarding the increase in energy efficiencies and climate resilience is reflected in this building bylaw. So to me, it looks like a great regulatory bylaw. And yeah, with that, back to the chair.
Great. And I just will throw in one more thing. Thank you very much for the report. It seems very thorough to me, and was helpful actually reflecting on the actual bylaw itself, the draft bylaw, with the report that was done. So thank you.
Thank you.
So committee, we have.
Do you want a motion for a seat?
Yes, exactly.
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Councilor Gray, seconded by Mayor Little. And any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Great, that passes. Folks, thank you very much. That is our meeting today, and if I could have a motion to adjourn. Councilor Donaldson and Councilor Epp, thank you so much, everyone.